If you have ever played FIFA, you would know what a regen means. It's short for regeneration, and in the simplest of terms, it is when a player has so much in common with another player from an older generation. These two players usually have a number of similar qualities, sometimes similar builds, often play in the same positions, and in some cases, even move the same way. But we don't only see regens in video games, we see them in real life too, and we want to talk about them today. These are 10 superstars and their regens. We'll start with Ronaldinho. His regen is obviously Neymar. Just like Ronaldinho, Neymar can play on the left wing and in midfield. They're both extremely skillful, flashy, technical, and they just like to enjoy themselves when they play football. Oh, and there are some other similarities in their career paths too. Both of them played for Barcelona and PSG, and both of them are Olympic medalists with Brazil. Interesting, isn't it? Who is better though? We'll leave that to you to decide. Now from one Barcelona pair to another. Andre Iniesta's regen is very obviously Pedri. They have similar builds and they even move the same way on the pitch. They're both known for their excellence in tight spaces, technicality, great vision, intelligence on the ball, quick feet and playmaking. Just like Iniesta, Pedri can function as an attacking midfielder, central midfielder, deep-lying playmaker or even a winger. In fact, Barcelona gave Pedri the number 8 because they too are aware that Pedri is basically just Iniesta reborn. And these days, when we talk about Pedri, you just have to talk about Gavi too. So, can you guess whose regen Gavi is? Go ahead and make an attempt in the comments and we'll see if you're right later in the video. But for now, let's look at Zlatan Ibrahimovic. His regen is so obviously Erling Haaland. They're both Scandinavian and are about the same height. They're very good strikers, great in the air, fast, and are even known for their slicked back hair. But the most obvious similarities are their athleticism and flexibility. There are some goals that you see Haaland score and you just know that Zlatan is the only other guy who could have scored a goal like that. And it makes a lot of sense that Haaland looked up to Ibra a lot growing up. The two Vikings linked up during the pre-season match between Man City and AC Milan, and you just know that Zlatan knew that he was looking at his successor. But honestly, Haaland being Zlatan's regen is pretty obvious, but this one that we're about to talk about is not as obvious. But if you think about it, it is so accurate. Jude Bellingham is Yaya Toure's regen. We know what's popular is people likening Bellingham to Zidane, but let's be honest, they only do that because Bellingham moved to Madrid and took the number 5. When it comes to how they play, they're not very similar. But you see, Bellingham and Yaya, that is where it's at. Think about it. Yaya could play as a 6, 8 or 10. He could put in a good tackle, win duels and still score a truckload of goals. Now, wouldn't you say all of this for Bellingham? Also, what are Bellingham's best qualities? He's a good ball carrier, an effective dribbler, good interpreter of space, awesome box crasher and a good striker of the ball. Now, aren't those things what Yaya was famous for, especially during his Man City days? Jude Bellingham is basically Yaya Toure reborn, not Zidane. Zidane's a far better dribbler, better creator and was way more graceful in his movements than Bellingham. Meanwhile, Bellingham is a better tackler and a goal scorer than Zidane. There isn't much in common between those two other than their height and their jersey number. Now, another one that might not be so popular is this. Gary Cahill's regen is William Saliba. First of all, they're both 6'4" centre-backs who became really famous playing for a London club, but it's more than that. These two guys who are 15 years apart have a lot in common. They're ball-playing centre-backs, they like to carry the ball forward and possibly start an attack when they can, but most importantly, they actually move the same way. We know most of you would have been expecting us to liken Saliba to Lilian Thuram or Varane because he's French, but nah, the similarities between him and Cahill are just too obvious to ignore. Speaking of Frenchmen though, here's an obvious one for you. N'Golo Kante is a Claude Makelele regen. If you've ever watched them play, you'd see exactly what we're talking about. They're both small, statured, very stubborn players, but they do the dirty work and it's very hard to get the ball off them. They're hard tacklers and destroyers, but they can also do a good job further up the pitch. Kante, like Makelele, can cover every blade of grass on the pitch and not be tired. And he can also do a good job anywhere you put him in the midfield. Of course, the similarities are further strengthened by the fact that they both played for Chelsea and the France national team. And speaking of the France national team leads us to our next guy. You see, Kylian Mbappe is a Cristiano Ronaldo regen. We know many people usually say Henry, but honestly, it's more Ronaldo, just without the heading ability. Remember when Ronaldo was younger, and up until his mid-20s or thereabouts, he was a fast, skillful, and very lethal wide player. He loved to make runs, take on players, and sometimes just show off with the ball. But he later transitioned into a more refined central player with better understanding of space in and around the box and a better eye for goal. This is the exact path Mbappe will follow. He started out as this very dangerous wide player, but that's already changing. People are already complaining that he doesn't make those runs that he used to make when he was younger, but this is only the beginning of his transition. In his final years at PSG, and even during the 2024 Euros, he was employed centrally, despite all his many previous complaints about not liking the role. And with Vinny having already established himself as one of the best left wingers in the world, we expect Mbappe to fully become like Ronaldo at Real Madrid. Then everyone will confess that Mbappe is truly a Ronaldo regen. Now, Thierry Henry, on the other hand, his regen is Alexander Isak. All you need to do is watch them side by side and you will see exactly why we say this. The stop and start dribbling style, the ability to create goals out of nothing, and the way they manipulate their bodies, all very similar. Also, they're so good at dribbling in from the wing and making timely runs behind defenders when they play centrally. It also helps that Isak currently wears number 14 for Newcastle and has been heavily linked with Arsenal for some time now. If he ever makes that move to the Emirates, everyone will see exactly what we're talking about. Now, remember I asked you guys to guess who Gavi is a regen of? We're pretty sure that nobody guessed Gennaro Gattuso. Obviously, many fans liken Gavi to Xavi because of the similarities in their names and career paths, but those two are actually nothing alike. But you see, Gavi and Gattuso, yeah, that's where the real similarities are. Both of them are small statured midfielders with a do-or-die mentality. They always play for the badge and they're always ready to put their lives on the line for their teams, and they will do all it takes to protect their teammates. They're both great ball winners, have high work rates, are really aggressive, passionate, and are great leaders. Like Gattuso, Gavi can play as a deep-lying playmaker and as a box-to-box midfielder. A player like this almost always has to be paired with a more silky playmaker in order to get the best out of them, which is why Gattuso almost always played with Pirlo and Gavi almost always plays with Pedri. You see the similarities, don't you? Finally, Eduardo Camavinga is a Clarence Seedorf regen. Like Seedorf, Camavinga is a very technical player and can play pretty much any position on the pitch. They both also have insane stamina and a certain elegance about their play. Heck, they even look alike. When Seedorf still had his dreads, he looked exactly how Camavinga looks right now. It is crazy. Now, those are 10 players and their regens, but that's not all. There's also Philippe Lahm and Joshua Kimmich, Maldini and Maguire. Feel free to keep the list going in the comments and make it as wild as possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so that you never miss out on new content. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.